It numbs you, a nightmare, a horrible disease. These are just a few of the ways people have described mental illness in their lives, whether it's you, your child, or a friend. Mental illness impacts all of us in the same ways, and that's why the Mind Space podcast is committed to uncovering mental illness and the impact it has.
Welcome to the Mind Space podcast. Your host, Fahad bin Mohamed. And with me today I have the lovely Auma Rita, a lawyer by profession, and amongst other things. So today we're going to be discussing a few issues that pertain her life and society at large. We're going to be discussing suicide and its effect in society. So Rita, it's an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for making it here to share your story with us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Please kindly talk to the masses, say a quick hello to them.
Hi guys, I hope you're good. I hope that was quick.
Yeah, so you're an introvert, so you say, so you've told us.
Yep.
Yeah, so you have quite the story. Mm-hmm. You have attempted suicide 7 times.
Yeah.
How does one get to attempt suicide 7 times? Like, I'm sure people out there wondering, why would someone get to this point in their life?
I think by the time you're in that space, different people have different reasons, but I will speak for myself. By the time you're in that space, you just want the pain to stop or the pain to numb, even though it's just for 5 seconds or 5 minutes. And you know how most people, when someone dies, they're like, rest in peace. Like, it's literal. You just want to just rest. And yeah, so because suicide dying come from a place of, today I'm feeling so good, I'll just jump off the building. No, I believe different people have different stories and different reasons why they come to the end of their road, why they want to end themselves. And most of these people have tried the most. They have tried to stay as much as they can. So it's not a form of cowardice. I just believe it's just the last point of an illness, like how someone can pass on due to cancer. Yeah. People pass on due to suicide. They do not commit it because it's not a crime. It's just the end of an illness, and in most cases it's the end of a mental illness. Yeah.
So most people don't really understand that a mental illness is quite as severe as any other form of chronic illness, like the cancers, the diabetes and whatnot. Because people don't understand that having suicidal thoughts and tendencies is an illness of the soul. So how you got to this point, how it all started is what I think we're interested in knowing. What sparked off?
Different things. And some people will say, this traumatic event happened and then it sparked off this. But for me, it's been a series of traumatic events happening in my life. Yeah. That's why when someone asks what my diagnosis is, it's not just post-traumatic stress disorder, it's complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And this happens when you've had a lot of trauma in your life. It's not just like one episode. Like I can say I was sexually assaulted and it led to this. But what happens if I've been sexually assaulted several times? On top of that, I've been robbed. On top of that, I've been abused as a child. Then that's a series of events that has led to this particular event. And most of us like to look at the end pain, but then this pain has been continuous. It has been never ending. And I like to ask the question, what would you do if you woke up every morning, you are in physical pain, you are in emotional pain, you are in mental pain, you just can't get a break. Most people just get a paper cut or just hurt their knee and they're like, my life is ending. But these people are struggling with a lot of pain in different kinds, and they're trying to do life, and then when they see one of the people they've been doing life with has passed on, and people are like, oh, you're a coward, they're like, why am I doing this anymore? Why am I even trying? Yeah, so I believe that just like any other illness, mental illness should be taken seriously. Suicide should be taken seriously, because statistically, every 7 seconds, someone takes their life due to suicide around the world. Yeah, and these statistics are growing, and for everyone who succeeds, the 25 people who have attempted in that second. Yeah, so it's a thing that's big and huge, and it's a thing we're ignoring and being mean to. Yeah.
So, your stories, since you have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, let's go through the series of your trauma. Yeah?
Am I willing?
Are you willing to go down this road? You can give us snippets for an inside view.
I don't know. I know the different points of trauma that happened in my life. Like, I was looking back recently, the first time I self-harmed, I was like around 7, 8 when I had those thoughts, like how your parents have a maid, and then she's constantly telling you, oh, you have bad legs, oh, you're ugly, all this. So I remember her telling me I had big, ugly lips. And I remember going to my mom's room and putting varnish on them. And that's very painful, because there's varnish had over some snake poison or what. And then in that moment I felt, oh, this isn't really working. How about I cut off my lips? Maybe people won't look at them and consider them ugly. I didn't consider it to be that they'll look at me more because I have no lips. Yeah. So that was one. The maid. 2. I was sexually assaulted when I was in high school. That was 2. I was sexually assaulted by friends after. That was 3. Being in a narcissistic relationship. Man, life has been crazy, but the different forms of trauma that have happened. Relationships ending. For the first time failing to get into low development center. Yeah, so I guess my brain was like, nah fam, I'm done, I'm tapping out. Yeah, so that's...
So, I mean, this is a series of trauma.
Yeah.
3 sexual assaults.
Yeah.
You failed your bar exam. I mean, you'd been traumatized as a child. It has led you to having how many diagnoses? Because you have complex post-traumatic stress disorder. You have one of the most severe forms of depression.
Yes.
Please list, because...
Yeah, so I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I have major depressive disorder. I have severe anxiety, and I have OCD. So those are 4 mental illnesses that I fight with on a daily.
And all of these need their own specific forms of treatment. Because suicide is multifactorial.
Yes, it is.
So you have all the major components of why you have these suicidal tendencies.
Yes, I do.
Because you started your first suicidal tendency, you told me, was in your senior 4. Your second was in your senior 6. And here you are 29 years old.
Yep.
So in the span of 10 years, you have attempted to take your life 7 times.
Yes.
How is it that you're still here with us?
I really don't know, like...
It seems a very, very awkward question to ask, but the Lord, something must be keeping you here with us.
I also asked myself that question when I woke up and like it didn't work. I'm like, but I've reached a point of realizing it's just God, because I must say I do these things perfectly. I'm a knowledge junkie, so I'll go and Google, what does this thing do? To what extent? How many more am I supposed to take? So I even do research before I carry out the attempt. but all those times, like, it's just felt to work. So I must say it's just good for me. I think I have a larger purpose than
Because you are a lawyer.
yeah.
Meaning you put in extensive research to make sure this job gets done.
Yes.
Someone out there would think on a one-off, if I wanted to go, I wouldn't fail. Because first of all, as media, I don't think it's in order to talk about the methodology in which people use to take their lives. But for your instance, are you willing to share?
I would be willing to share, but here's the con of sharing.
Yes.
That there might be someone who's suicidal, who's watching,
And
then they go and carry out.
and for them it may
and
not
for them it will
work out, yes.
Yes, so, and it's a very triggering thing. I may share, and then it might also be the trigger that causes someone else to actually do it. So, the forms have been different. I'll share one. I once jumped in front of a fast-moving car, and it just didn't hit me.
It didn't hit you.
It just stopped. Like, it had one purpose to keep going, but it just stopped. It just didn't hit me. The person was just able to break on time.
That's the power of the Lord, I believe.
Yeah.
As you said. So let's go back to the beginning. This is you, a young child. Senior 4. You have attempted such. Because this is you coming from your background, having been sexually harassed. Because these are things that happen in society that we cannot condone, but they're evils that just happen to exist. So how does a young girl at that time learn to start coping with this condition? Because the first time people have these experiences, be it with depression, with anxiety, with whichever form of mental illness, usually the beginning times are really, really turbulent because you do not really know what is going on. So how did you start this journey?
I think my first coping mechanism was deciding that I'm just going to be serious with my books, and I put everything into my education. Because of the mental illness that wasn't diagnosed then, my body started having issues. I would fall sick all the time. I was ever in hospital, but at the back of my mind, I was like, however much I fall sick, I am going to do this school thing as best as I can. So that was a major coping mechanism. And at the back of my mind also is that I decided I wanted to be a lawyer, because in that way maybe I would get revenge when I put the person who sexually assaulted me behind bars. So imagine my shock when I failed the pre-entry. So that coping mechanism that I'd used for all those years crashed before my eyes, and I went into a trance of what am I really doing? I went into a panic state. So that was my major coping mechanism. Another major coping mechanism I had since that age was like, fake it till you make it. Like, just always look like the happiest person in the room, and no one will have to know. So I was quite a jolly person. I was quite, those people would be like, oh, I'm so cool, what. But when I went to my bed, and faced my demons, I knew what I was facing. And recently I was on my Instagram and sharing how I need to learn how to love myself more. And one of my longest friends was like, but you love yourself. You're always so full of self-love and all these things. And I was like, no, I am the meanest person to myself. I am actually the rudest person to myself. By the time someone tells me something, I've already told myself that thing like a million times. So it's like, So that was another coping mechanism. Fake it till you make it. That's why I believe people who lose their lives to suicide will have their friends say, oh, but she was so happy yesterday. Oh, but she was the life of the party. Oh, but this. And they really would not know what the person has been dealing with.
Is that, from another perspective, is that really a coping mechanism that is sustainable?
It's not. You always crash. Your brain can only take too much.
Yes.
And the thing about your brain, it will work with you. It will say, you want to zone this out, we'll zone it out. You don't want to remember this, we won't remember it. But you reach a certain point and it will finally crash. For me, my crashing point was 2019, where my brain was like, you know what? We have tried, PCO. And that's why I ended up into psych ward. Yeah, but all those years I had numbed and I had put all this pain away. I'm very good at compartmentalizing. Yeah, so I had done a lot of compartmentalizing and pushed my pain away.
So, from your first attempt in your senior 4, I can't even imagine what year this was, to 2019, you had not yet been to psych ward.
Nope.
And you had 4 incidents of suicide by then.
Yeah, that nobody knew about.
This includes the high school, senior 6.
Yeah.
It includes campus.
Yeah.
It includes failing the pre-entry.
Yes.
Then now you failed pre-entry and this was the end of it all, was it?
No, I still went on.
You still went on?
Yeah, I did my back course. Nobody knew. It was until 2019 because I did my back course in 2016. Yeah. So I did life this whole time and nobody knew. It was just me who knew the darkness I was fighting.
Till it eventually caught up with you.
Yeah.
So this is you in treatment. How is that experience like? How did you actually end up there?
How did I end up there? So I knew this specific time the suicidal ideations were stronger. Like you have suicidal ideations for people who fight with suicidality. You have them, but there's some that are okay, and you'll be like, I can fight this one off. But there are those that come and they've brought their aunties, uncles, and all other relatives for you. So I had such, and I was like, you know what, let me first go and pray. Maybe, because you've even been told if you die by suicide, you won't go to heaven. So I was like, let me go and pray and explain to God why He should let me into heaven after I die.
Yeah.
So I go away 3 days and pray, and then I just felt I had a voice that you should go and get actual help. So I reached out to my cousin who had been in psych ward before, because she's the only one I knew. And I told her, can I come and see you? And we talked. So that day, I didn't drive my car. I got onto a bike to go see her. And then when I went to see her, she looked at me and she was like, I just can't let you walk out of that gate. Are you willing to go to hospital? And I was like, okay, if it will help with my pain, that's fine. And I'm like, cool. But in my head, the hospitals I was going to are glamorous hospitals. So she's like, okay, we'll take you the next day. So the next day comes, and my cousin and big brother taking me to hospital. And we are not going to the direction of Nakasero. We're not going to the direction of Kampala Hospital. And then it hit me once we reached Game that they were taking me to Butawika. So I started to cry. I was like, you just can't take me to mad people. I'm not mad. Yeah, and then, you even have a stigma against yourself because you don't know what's going on. And then I reached Butawika, and the people there were the mad people there were friendly. And this guy just took my book. He borrowed it to read it, and I had an anxiety attack. Anyway, I later on got to see a psychiatrist who told me to go see a psychologist, and I did some tools. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't happy. I excelled greatly because she looked at me and she was like, okay, you have a combination of these 3. and we admit someone for just one. And I remember begging and telling her, I don't want to be admitted. Please let me go. I will come for all my appointments and everything. And she was like, okay, let's try the outpatient program. So I was an outpatient for like a month. I would go like thrice a week for psychiatric and psychological help. And I remember at a point I was like, but I can't live life like this. I can't live life with all these mental illnesses. I can't take medication for the rest of my life. I'm just tired. So then I had another attempt. And that's when I was taken in as an inpatient.
Wow. Inpatient treatment.
Yeah.
So that's your second stint?
Yeah.
Still Butabika?
Yeah.
Which ward were you? Which ward?
I was in the private
ward.
Yeah, like for 2 months.
2 months? Mm-hmm. So this is still 2019?
Yes.
Treatment. Now, how is the inpatient treatment?
The inpatient treatment was, it was okay. The psychiatrists and psychologists were good, but then we had issues with the nurses just because I felt like once these people left, like the ones who treat us, some nurses treated us differently. They had that stigma extended to us, like we don't know what we are thinking, we don't know what we are doing. That stigma was so bad. I remember I got into a fight with a nurse before I left, and it really wasn't good. Yeah, but I made friends there, friends for life, and we'd just sit in the evenings and we'd talk about life and we'd have solutions to our problems, and then we'd make jokes about how we are the right thinking members of society, and the rest of the people out there were the ones who are not
the
okay.
Problem,
Yeah, they were the problem, Bambi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The companionship helps in terms
the
of...
companionship was amazing.
So the therapy, did it help? Can you say it helped?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. I had an amazing therapist. She's called Veronica, and I keep saying she saved my life. That those people who come into your life and you know for certain if this specific person wasn't there, I wouldn't be there. Because even as I was there as an inpatient, my plan was like, once I'm released, I'm going to end my life.
You are ready to boom, eh?
I was ready to boom, but she'd look at me and say, we're not releasing you today. You first go back and sleep. And you'd be so angry. But by the time I left, I was in a better space.
Yeah.
I'm glad she kept telling me to go back and sleep. Yeah.
Because I, for one, I've also been in treatment. I can't say it worked 100%, but it empowered me.
Yeah.
It really did empower me. It gave me the tools to manage my next relapses and help me be less dysfunctional than I was before. So people don't understand that even for suicidal tendencies, there's relapse.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, so this is you after treatment, 2019, and you head for relapse.
Yeah, I heard
once
for
again.
relapse. Yeah.
Actually, 2 more times?
No, one more.
One more time.
I had a relapse, unattempted, and then I had an attempt before being taken in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what leads you to this relapse after treatment? Because usually after treatment, things for some people are a bit glossy for a while till the euphoria, and you go back to ground zero. Then now the triggers and the emotions start taking a toll on the individual.
I think for me it was the stigma around everything. Like, I faced stigma from some family members. I faced stigma from some friends. And then I had stigma from myself. Yes, because when they put you on medication and they're like, now you have to take all these pills, these ones are for anxiety, and you're like, I'm not used to doing life on medication. You're just used to going to bed for. Now they're telling you need to take this medication. You need to talk to yourself this way. You need to eat these things. You need to do this and that. And you're overwhelmed. And the knowledge junkie that I am, I went down the rabbit hole of, okay, I'm going to watch all the TED Talks I can on mental illness. I'm going to see how many people survive after diagnosis. And I noticed people are still dying after diagnosis. So I was like, if I take my medication and do all these things and still feel suicidal, then what's the goal? Let me just end it, because, it just didn't make sense. It just didn't add up.
So, in all this stigma that is surrounding you, because I can only imagine how it is to live with someone who is suicidal, because they also need to be handled as different kind of way. So your support system as Rita, where do you think you are getting the strength? This is before you started your foundation. So before all this, where were you deriving your strength? Was it family oriented? Was it because you told me you have in your family some members are predisposed to the tendencies as well. So was there already an understanding of the suicidal tendencies as a family that enabled you cope?
Yes and no. No, because we only had one person that I know of that had been institutionalized. So we're still trying to grasp what mental illness really is. And yes, because my family was willing to unlearn and learn things with me. An example, my big brother came for every single appointment I went for, even as an inpatient. He was there. So I was like, okay, if I hate myself this much and I don't like myself this much, there is this person who's putting in a lot more effort and is loving me so much. So let me try and do this for him. So my reason to stay after psych ward was not about me. I was staying for my family. Yeah.
So they helped you go through the stigma?
Yes, they did. They did help me go through the stigma.
So, treatment. They say people who are suicidal are users. They called users, people that have to use medication for the rest of your life. So, how do you deal with such a diagnosis? Because it's more or less a chronic condition.
Yes, it is.
Meaning the possibility of it ever going away is more or less impossible.
Yeah.
How does one deal with the reality of, yes, I have been diagnosed with these conditions, but I am not going to let them define my life? How do you get to this point in life?
I'm still getting there.
Because it's an ever-going battle, but the fact that you're still here, it's like recovery.
Yeah, I'm still getting there every single day. It's a daily decision that since I'm still here, let me try again today. Yeah, so I'm still getting there. I'm not yet there, honestly. That's why I guess my last attempt was on 18th October, because I'm still getting there. There's some days where the darkness wins and other days where it doesn't.
So people talk about good days and bad days for suicidal people. What's the typical? Because some people talk about depression and misuse these terms of depression and anxiety, but I don't think they really know what it means to have a bad day. To wake up and you're feeling a kind of depression, a kind of hopelessness where if you feel as though if you left, it would really be okay.
Yeah.
So how do you transition from a bad day to a good day and a good day to a bad day? Because I mean, it's already hard.
Yeah.
Now, I may not say I've had suicidal thoughts before, but I have thought about it. But not to that level where it is chronic on my behalf. But I have other repetitive chronic behaviors that dull my mental health. So when I have a bad day, it's practically all I can think about. That fixation, because you're already diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder. This means your level of fixation
is way higher
than the ordinary person. And when you add the suicidal tendencies to the obsessive compulsion, it means that's another cocktail for disaster. It means when you fixate on the bad as you, it's really, really a bad day. So how do you ground yourself in these bad days? I mean, you can go to work and things don't work out. You can want to talk to someone. You said you're in a narcissistic relationship. All these triggers that happen to you on a bad day, how do you pull through?
I honestly just wait for the day to end, because most times my bad days are so terrible. Every single thing is a solution of how I'm supposed to end my life. I can wake up, like how normal people wake up and they're like, oh, I'm just going to iron my shirt and just go. I'm like, oh, just put that flat on your body, or just throw it in water and just sleep in. So that's the level of which the tendencies are at. Then you go to work and your boss is stressing you and you're trying to do your best, but your brain can't deliver. Then that's the same day a borderman abuses your legs. Some bad days can be so terrible, but I've learned to feel through that pain. Because if I don't, it's a recipe for disaster. I'm just pushing the bad days to add to another bad day, and that will be worse. So I feel through the pain, and sometimes I just walk away and most times I walk away, go to my room, I cry, and I sleep. That's how I go about my bad days. I cry and I sleep. Because if I'm asleep, I can't harm myself.
That's a coping method.
Yeah.
It works.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, so especially for those who are going the depression side of it, sleep is like the most comforting. Though depressive, still comforting. So we're talking about trauma in regards, actually, early childhood trauma, exposure in regards to its effect on suicide. So this is you having been traumatized before you were 7. This is still you in your formative years. Then this is you having been going through sexual assault 3 times on 3 separate occasions. Did you ever get to deal with this trauma? Because before 2019,
I did. After 2019, I didn't. Before 2019, I didn't.
Yes.
After 2019, I started to deal with it through therapy. Yeah, and I'm still dealing with it.
Did you let it go?
I don't think you can just let it go. It's not a get over it kind of quick fix. It's a daily thing.
Because now it's in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Do you know these individuals?
Yeah, I do.
And do you believe, because now you took up the law profession to get justice and vengeance for yourself, is that something you are still working towards?
No.
So that is what I'm trying to understand, the letting go of what happened, and this is you moving forward.
I don't think I let it go. I think I work on it, and I think I try to forgive daily, because there are days where I just want to get those people and like just be an assassin and like hang them on some poles or shoot them.
Yeah. Because you've spoken about your uncle. There's a time you spoke about beating up a border man.
Yes. So I think my brain is predisposed to being unsafe. And if it's men, my anger is like 30 times more. So I may look small and all, but once I feel like a man is pushing me over and I'm unsafe, I get this bounce of energy and I can beat up anybody. If it's a man.
You become manic towards...
Yes.
The insecurities you
yes,
get when
I
you're around
actually
men.
become manic, and in my head I'm a ninja. I guess.
But with your history, it's justified because
Yeah, and the iron of it all, I've always fought my way through, and the other person is the one who gets injured.
so your violence is now a hobby.
No, but I also take self-defense
Lessons,
classes.
classes. So you know how to get your things in order.
Yeah. Yes, I know how to get my things in order. I know when it's required and when
Yeah.
it's not required.
Are you passionate about it?
I'm passionate about boxing.
So am I, cause of the release of the energy, the
Yes.
anger. There's
Yeah.
that pent up anger they say we have as people who have decided to cross a certain kind of line.
Yeah.
So you still box?
Yes, I do boxing. And also working out helps.
Yeah.
I feel like as I'm working out, I'm getting ready for
For the war.
for the war, yeah.
Okay. It helps keep your mind alert.
Yeah, it does.
So let's talk about the work experience. Now, especially in third world Uganda, our poor Uganda, where you, Rita, have to tell your boss, I need some time off because siri bulungi.
The work experience is the pits. Workplaces are the pits towards people who are fighting mental illness. They will understand a physical illness anytime, any day. But when it comes to a mental illness, they won't. I got into an accident. I suffered in 2019. Anyway, in 2019, I got into an accident, and Ipsum hit me while I was on a border. And I flew off, and I hit my head on the car in front, and I broke 3 neck bones. And I remember I was still at my workplace, and they told me, oh, take all the time you need to recover and all this. And then recently, I had a terrible relapse, and I wasn't able to go to work for days because I was literally suicidal every day. And I had to do a ketamine procedure. For people who do ketamine, you know it makes you so weak and unable to do a lot of stuff after the procedure. And my workplace didn't understand it. And they cut my salary for the days I didn't come in. And in my mind, I was like, if it was a physical illness, if I was admitted in hospital, you guys would be more understanding. But I felt because it's a mental illness, you are not. And that was really painful for me, because the pain I felt during my relapse, my mental illness relapse, was 10 times worse than the pain that I felt during the accident and its after effects. And of course, sometimes you're like, I wish you just get a glimpse of mental illness just for a day and we see if you survive. But it's not right to wish that on someone. Yeah, so the workplaces are the pits. People don't want to have this conversation. When this conversation is hard, it's not taken seriously. And I believe people take things seriously from the way they treat people when they're facing this. You can't say you're passionate about your workers' health, yet when they're ill, you're cutting their salary. Or when they're ill, you're not even giving them insurance. You see, that's being double standard. That's having double standards, and I really do not believe in it. Yeah, so I had the option of not talking about this, and I felt like it would encourage the stigma in workspaces, or talking about it and getting into trouble. So we'll see how
this goes.
how this goes.
But is that a reality of what our society has become?
It is a reality, and that's why people will not say, hey, I'm ill. They'll hide it, because what they face with coming out is more painful than what they face without coming out.
Because I think the society now is it's so loveless and so lonely that it's even hard to share the most intimate, because we have lost our sense of community. In that, people say you can't find friends at the workplace.
Yeah. I like immediately that incident happened. I was like, your employer is not your friend. Like that's my new mantra. My employer is not my friend. I know this and I know peace. For him, it's just a way to get me to do things so that his company works out at whatever cost. So if I died, they will come and lay flowers and say how I was a nice person. And then in the next 10 hours, my job will be up for the next person who can help him get that coin. Yeah, so at the end of it all, boundaries help when you're fighting a mental illness. Some of these boundaries will be made after you've gone through terrible experiences, but they're better. Yeah.
So how do you set these boundaries? Because I believe there's a transparency that is needed for organizations. I mean, if your employer it's need to know basis, but your employer needs to know what kind of condition you're in as a human being.
Yes, if you have explained to your employer, this is what I'm facing, and I normally say it's so hard, but say it even during the interviews because I was very open about it. I was like, this is what I face. Some days I won't be able to come in, other days I'll be able to come in because it's a continuous battle. I don't go to bed and I'm like, tomorrow I might not be fine. It just happens. And if you have stated this, then the third thing is if you are doing your best and not using it as an excuse and you're already giving in your all. And four, if you're legitimately not fine,
Yes.
then someone shows you, oh, all this isn't important. For me, I'm all about that coin. Place the boundary. Choose. Like now, I'm able to choose, okay, I won't come in, but I'll be at peace. That money has gone. But my mental health is more important. At the end of it all, the job will come and go, but I will still be here. And I need to do something else when I'm still here. So I'm going to choose myself over my employer and all his needs. Yeah, so that's how boundaries work. Sometimes you learn to draw them through the experience, like I said. Like for me, I kept seeing people on Twitter say, my employer isn't my friend. But I was like, but me, I feel like mine is my friend.
Yeah.
But after facing the experience, then I drew the boundary. Yeah.
So talking about boundaries, there's you opening up your boundaries. Despite your struggles as an individual, you open up an organization. Kindly briefly tell us about it and what your mission is.
So Heart to Heart Spaces is community-based. We believe that we can solve this mental health conundrum by talking about it to end the stigma. So we do a lot of advocacy. We also believe that talking about it just can't be the only thing that happens. So we have people reach out who need help. When they reach out and we know they need help, I keep saying people who struggle from mental illness or any form of mental illness, because an addiction is a mental illness, always have that courage that like you can pass someone and say, that's my guy.
Yeah, yours is that's my
You just know that's my guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you just have that trader. And I was like, you know what, I can use this trader for good. So when somebody reaches out, I can immediately
The empathy.
Yeah, the empathy. And I'm like, okay, you need to see a psychiatrist immediately or a psychologist. And then we talk about if the person is ready. And then sometimes they're ready but don't have the finances. So that's why we come in. We help foot the bill to help people get affordable therapy. And yeah, that's basically what we do. And then we also have safe spaces. I designed this after Alcohol Anonymous. Before we would meet physically, and you just share how your day has been. Like those sessions you'd have in psych ward or rehab, and you just share and everybody just lives feeling better. Yeah, so that's basically what Heart to Heart Spaces does. Yeah, and the vision is so that for people to have companionship on their journey to healing. You shouldn't walk that journey alone. It can be painful and it can be hard. Yeah.
That's really, really, really inspiring. So you are second born
Yes, I am.
out of 7 children.
Yes.
We need to talk about this effect, the effect of suicide on families, on the community, and because this is not just you as the person who goes through it, but now, given the fact that you have opened up your boundaries to help other people, these are questions they will always have to ask you, because this is as open as it gets. Does it have a ripple effect? Because usually, if the tendencies in the family, I'm seeing if you have more siblings below you, they're more susceptible to going down the same path as you. And how does your family cope?
We have open conversations about that topic. Yeah, like I can say this is what is happening, and my big brother will get it, and we'll have an open conversation, and he'll let me know how that makes him feel, or my little sister will let me know how that makes her feel, and then I'll know what to do next. Most times I'm not in the space to help them, but I'm in the space to tell them, hey, I know someone you can talk to help you go through this. Yeah, because the line is very blurry when it comes to family. Like, the way I might have been able to talk someone out of a painful circumstance or a suicidal circumstance, I may fail to do that for my family because I'm overwhelmed. I'm having this panic attack. So I think the way we have done it is to openly talk about it and to have resources available. So when my brothers or sisters feel like they need help, or I feel like they need to talk to someone, I'll make an appointment and they'll go and talk to someone professional because I may not have the answer. But it does have a ripple effect. I was watching a TED Talk the other day, and this lady was talking about how her dad had an attempt, and then later on in life, she lost her sister to suicide and her husband to suicide. So she felt like it had an effect. And for her, when the dad first had an attempt, the mother was very particular about sitting down, looking her square in the eye and telling her, it's not your fault. Because that's very important. Most families or most friends feel like they have failed the person and they feel like they should have done something more, but it's not your fault. It's never your fault, and that's very, very important for the person to know. Yeah.
So it's accepting our reality, because that's one thing they always emphasized in treatment: reality.
Yeah.
So you as an individual, you accept the reality. Your family, you accept the reality.
Yeah.
So now we're affecting society. We're trying to affect society change. So we need to get people to accept that these are certain realities that are being faced in our society. And upon accepting, now getting help.
Yeah.
You said suicide at the beginning is not a form of weakness. Because at the end of the day, it is only a person who can help themselves.
Yeah.
And if they do believe that whatever condition they are in and whatever decision they make is best for them, then who are we to say otherwise?
Yeah.
So going forward, what would you tell people that are struggling with this? Because this is something you struggle with and something you're doing a great job combating. But how would you inspire someone out there? Someone who's been going through this, someone who has contemplated it, someone who relates with the magnitude of the pain of the situation that you're in. What words do you have for them to keep them going?
I have an amazing friend called Michelle, and when I'm having those tendencies, we have real conversations because she also has the same incidents. And I remember telling her this particular time, I can't stay, not even for me or anyone else, I'm just tired. And then she was like, and I was like, I feel like I can't love myself and I'm done this time, I'm really done. And she was like, oh, sweetheart, I think That's why people are in your life, to love you when you can't love yourself. So for someone who's fighting with suicidality, one, please stay. I know it's difficult. I know it's hard. I know it's crappy most of the times, but please stay. And the people who love you, even when you can't love yourself, the people who see you, even when you can't see yourself, you are amazing, and you're more than the suicidality, you're more than the mental illnesses you fight. You are an amazing whole person. Yeah, and if you give up, it's okay. It's okay to give up. It's okay to relapse, but just try and take 1 minute at a time, or take 1 hour at a time, and before you know it, it will be 24 hours and you've been here for an extra day. So please stay.
I can't say more, can't add more. But as we say in recovery, we take it 1 day at a time.
Yep.
So on that note, please just hang in there, speak about it, live a happy life, and slow down. 1 day at a time makes a bundle. Stay safe, subscribe, and let's link next time. Thank you.
It numbs you, a nightmare, a horrible disease. These are just a few of the ways people have described mental illness in their lives, whether it's you, your child, or a friend. Mental illness impacts all of us in the same ways, and that's why the Mind Space podcast is committed to uncovering mental illness and the impact it has.